Aw, come on, it's just a bunch of hocus pocus. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the Sanderson sisters are back, and we're here to talk about the original Hocus Pocus and its close to 30 years later sequel, Hocus Pocus 2. I'm your host, Cinema Kane, and today we're going to take a look at those movies. So, the original Hocus Pocus, I was part of that generation. I saw that movie in the theater and grew up with it. It's a cult classic for a good reason. It's a great film. The LGBT community has really embraced it, which is, no surprise to me. It's got some truly fantastic, almost choreographed sequences outside of the dance sequence. You know, it's a very musical movie, and it's one of those movies that if you grew up with it like I did, you almost can't think of Halloween without thinking of it. Now, I remember there was a time period where it's kind of like when you eat your favorite food too much or something, and for a while you just get sick of it and you can't stand it anymore. Same thing happened to me with Hocus Pocus. For whatever reason, I just watched it so much as a kid that there was a time period, probably my late teens to mid 20s, where it was like, I don't know that I want to watch Hocus Pocus again. Well, that has definitely changed. I really do appreciate the film now, more probably than I did when I was even younger. The performances by the three leads, and I know that they're technically not the leads because they're the villains of the piece, but let's face it, they're the leads. They're what you come to see. I mean, Bette Midler as Winifred Sanderson is absolutely phenomenal. Kathy and Jenny as Mary Sanderson, just as perfect for her role. And of course, Sarah Jessica Parker as Sarah Sanderson was actually my favorite as a kid. And the reason for that is not just because she's a very beautiful woman, but because of the fact that her performance was so much that of a boy-crazed, like, teenage girl. I mean, every time she saw a boy, it was like, ooh, a boy. Which just, made me crack up every time. The original cast, Omri Katz, Thora Birch, the brother-sister, and I apologize for not being able to think of her name, but the girl that played the love interest, Allison, they were great young actors. They actually had well-thought-out characters. You understood their motivations. Max didn't want to go out on Halloween, was forced to go out on Halloween, and then, of course, kind of fell into everything simply because of the fact that there was a girl he liked involved. Like, yeah, okay, if she wants to go, I'll go, that kind of thing. And it's the three of them really don't get enough credit for making the original Hocus Pocus what it is, at least in my opinion. Of course, the great Doug Jones as I can't even remember his name now. Billy Butcherson. Wow. It's really just an all-around kind of perfect kids movie. And I say kind of perfect because, yeah, there's some things that haven't necessarily aged all that well. But, it's a cult classic for a reason. I love the original Hocus Pocus. And now let's talk about Hocus Pocus 2. Because, first of all, I want to get this out of the way. I'm going to say this as succinctly as possible. I really did enjoy the film. But for me, the most entertaining aspect of the film was the first 10 to 15 minutes where we got to see the Sanderson sisters as young women. Oh my gosh. Those three were so perfect. And I'll be honest, Disney, if you're listening, which I doubt you are, although the Great and Powerful Mouse might be, you never know. I would watch a streaming series about the young Sanderson sisters starring those three. They were that good. The humor is mostly on par with what we saw in the original. The three leads, and this time I don't mean the Sanderson sisters, the three young women that were cast to be your sort of segue into the movie this time, the POV, they were so underwritten. I can't really tell you anything about them outside of like what they looked like. The fact that I can tell you things about the young cast of the original, but I can't tell you much of anything about character traits of the kids in the sequel, to me suggests that while the film knew its audience wanted to see the Sanderson sisters back, they didn't think they necessarily wanted to see the kids from the original back. But I'll tell you, that was what my nostalgia was hurting for in this, because I desperately wanted to see those three characters from the original back in some form, even if they were only playing the parents of the new kids. That would have been fine, but I would have loved to have seen a more active involvement actually with the characters from the original, simply because I think that, to me at least, they were as big a part of the original success in my mind as the Sanderson sisters were. Now, all that aside, the Sanderson sisters, wow, they have not missed a beat since 1993, and it shows. The three of them still work just as beautifully as they ever did. The banter, the physical comedy, all of it is just as on par as it ever was. The other biggest issue I had, because again, I enjoyed the film, but the other biggest issue I had was the forced musical numbers. I mean, okay, I get it. Yeah, they're putting a spell on someone at one point, but when they literally come back, there's like a minute-long music number, and I just couldn't help but go, really? There's no reason for the musical number right now. Why is this happening now? The other thing that kind of brings the sequel down is just the fact that it feels like it was rushed into production, which I know is funny to say considering how long it took to make, but it just feels like Disney only recently discovered that Hocus Pocus had a cult following, and as a result, they were like, well, we need to capitalize on that. How can we do that? Oh, I know. Let's make a sequel. The sequel just hits so many of the same beats as the original that it doesn't feel as original as, well, the original. So there you go. That's my take on Hocus Pocus and Hocus Pocus 2. If you've never seen Hocus Pocus, highly recommend it. It's a great family Halloween film. The sequel's even more family friendly, if you can believe it. And I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you did enjoy this review, don't forget to click that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell notification so you know every time Cinema Kane has a new video uploaded. I'm your host, Cinema Kane, and I'll see you at the video store.